Hello, everyone. My name is Thuy Tran, and I'm the Festival and Exhibitions Director of CAAMFest. We are here with Ray Yeung, from the director of All Shall Be Well. He can't join us for the in-person, but we're so grateful, Ray, that you were able to do this little virtual Q&A with us. And Ray, thank you so much for this beautiful film, and congratulations on all the recognition that the film has already received, at the world premiere at Berlinale. I know you took home the Teddy Award for Best LGBTQ themed film. So congratulations on that. And the film is just so understated, but so layered and just so devastating, but tender for your lead. And I appreciate you so much for, showing all of these nuances. Can you share a little bit more about just your intention for making this film and how this story came to you?
Okay. Hi. In 2020, actually, during the release of Suk Suk, my last film in Hong Kong, I went to a talk about the Hong Kong LGBTQ inheritance rights. During the talk, the speaker talked about three cases where he had encountered, and in situations very similar to the movie. So I said to him, can you introduce these people to me? So he did. And I met up with them and interviewed their stories and realized that this is a story that needs to be told, particularly in Hong Kong, where there is no same-sex marriage. And same-sex marriage, even from overseas, is not really recognized.
Mhm.
So therefore, if you're a long-term couple, you really don't have a lot of rights. And you have to make a will. And if you don't, and in those cases that I encountered and I interviewed, they didn't make a will. And therefore, all the belongings basically went to the next of kin instead of the long-term partner. So that's why I decided to write the story, of course, to show that the lack of protection for same-sex couples in Hong Kong, but also to examine what is family,
Mm.
what does it really mean, what is a family member, is it someone who is really, close knit to you, biologically, or is it someone that have been together with you for many, many years, although, legally they don't have any rights at all?
Right. And I'm just curious to know, why didn't they have a will?
Well, I mean, in Hong Kong, a lot of people don't. We have been showing the films to lots of people, and at the audience, I asked them how many people here have make a will, and there were like 90 audience, and only three people put up their hands. I think for a
Wow.
lot of people, making a will feels very, very far away. Unless you are in your 60s or over. They feel that it's something that's very far away and something that they can put it, further down the line, there's more important thing to do now. And of course, there is an element of facing death, head on, like, oh, okay, I really have to plan something. And I think also in Chinese culture and in Hong Kong, there's still certainly a little bit of superstitions about it, that if you have written a will, that means you might be cursed. So there's all that elements make people very scared of making a will. Also, I think people here also think that it's very costly and very complicated. So they also try to avoid that.
Absolutely. Um, and I felt when I watched this, I felt like there was just, so much, it felt like such a Hong Kong film, and you brought up so many just contemporary issues that folks in Hong Kong are facing in terms of, just the skyrocketing costs with housing. Of course, just the, LGBTQ partner status. And can you share just a little bit more about, just the way that you weave like both of these into your characters and stories? And yeah, like it just felt very like, would you say this is like a very Hong Kong film that, like all of these themes like connecting?
I mean, it is a Hong Kong film, but it's also very universal because in the
Mm.
sense we have, most of us have lost someone very close to us, and the kind of grieving that it takes, and then you still have to deal with the deceased family members. So there's all that issues that you have to deal with that I think a lot of people can relate to. But in terms of the story, I mean, Yes, I mean, Hong Kong, this situation is particularly emphasized because the property prices in Hong Kong is so high. And for a very ordinary person, it's almost impossible to buy a new apartment to live in, or, if you are starting up. So, I mean, that's why in the story, that is being emphasized. Like for someone who's in their 30s, just starting out, it's almost impossible to buy an apartment unless your parents are rich enough to give you some support. But in this film, I also purposely try not to make the family members out and out villains.
Mm.
Because I think it's important that the audience who watch this movie can also identify with the problems of the family members so that they will feel, okay, although I might not be able to afford this apartment, suddenly now I can own it. So in that case, would I let this woman, who I know that have been my auntie for many years, still live in this apartment, even though that I know that, they were a couple, but maybe I will deny that for my own good, because let's face it, the law said that now I own the apartment. So why don't I, take over? So I really want the audience to really, put themselves in that situation and really think about it. Not just like make it like, oh, LGBTQ is the good or the victim, and then the heterosexuals are the bad people. It's not that. We're talking about the system that is problematic. And in that situation, these people are allowed to take advantage of it.
Right. And I thought you struck that balance so well. And just the way you like contrasted these scenes, especially at the beginning when you open with them hosting this beautiful dinner party with all their families and it feels so dreamlike, right? Everyone's having such a great time. And then all of a sudden Pat dies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so fast. And then and then you just hear like, and for me in the back of my head, I hear like this record, skirt. And then, and then just like the way that the characters just slowly evolved, or just the relationships started to slowly disintegrate. And you see like, just how they treated Angie, like things, um, people's interior motives like start to reveal themselves. And it was just so subtle. And also like you did it in a way where I was able to really understand their motives, and I felt for them, the family. And I mean, I felt for Angie too, and she's like trying to like uphold like Pat's legacy and honor her wishes for even how she wanted to be buried. And so I noticed also, there's these themes of burials and rituals too that come up. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think, in terms of like homophobia, I mean, of course, the
Mm-hmm.
law is part of it, they never really sort of like, particularly in Hong Kong, the government is not very proactive on that. But apart from that, there is also culturally, or the custom itself is very homophobic because, of course, it hands down from many years ago. And so therefore, people get used to it. And of course, it never really addressed any kind of LGBTQ rights. So even I find myself like, if I go to a funeral, even though I know someone who really well, I always find myself like, if I'm with my partner, that a little bit embarrassed. Where do we go? Do we stand at the front? Do we stand at the back? Do we go in as a couple? Does the family know that he's gay? Are we outing him now that he's dead? Do you know what I mean? You all to go through all those things in your mind. And of course, like with these kind of traditional events, therefore, they always have a very, very strict ritualistic system. And that never really, sort of like have any rooms for anybody who is outside the traditional, patriarchy, family kind of model.
Mm-hmm.
So you will always find yourself being at odds in this kind of situation, particularly in this case when Angie is really, should be the person who is the most important, but the
Yeah.
custom doesn't really allow that, and she is officially really just a friend because she's no other status for her. I mean, the film really wants to show that, if you are in this situation, not that you just lost your loved one, that is very important, of course, and of course your properties, but you also lose your identity, because suddenly, you were originally this life partner of this person, and then suddenly when this person passed away, you are nobody because you don't even have a label or title or anything. And at the end, as you can see in Angie's case, she even loses her dignity because she then has to go around begging for people to let her stay. You know, when the law is not on your side, she has nothing to fight for. The only thing she really could fight for in Hong Kong right now is the dependence allowance. And as shown in the film, you know, the dependence allowance itself is slightly degrading in the sense that you are basically saying that you know, your whole life, you're depending on this person who supports you. Without this person, you can't survive on your own. I
Right.
mean, how frustrating is that, you know? But that is the only option, the only instrument you have, you know, to fight for whatever little bit that you can get. And fighting for that is important. I think as is shown in the film, it's not just about the money, but it's also about showing the world that this person was important to you and you were important to this person. You know, it's not just about the money, but the fact that you two were a couple and this person was looking after you all your life. So you have to think of it that way, you know, in order to, you know, sort of retain some kind of dignity.
Right, absolutely. And I found myself wondering, you focus on a lesbian couple for this, but if they were a gay male couple, would they have faced the same challenges?
Uh, it would be very interesting because the reason is that we are talking about a couple who are already in their 60s. So
Hmm.
if you go back 30 or 40 years, like say in the 80s or 90s in Hong Kong, being a male gay couple, you very unlikely you'll be accepted in the family as much as that because they would think, oh, well, this uncle who has not married has a roommate. If he brings that roommate to the family events, everybody will think, oh my God, what's he doing? But if it's an auntie who is not married and has a roommate, everybody think, oh yeah, they're just sisters. They didn't get married. They're just good
Right.
friends. And then they were kind of accepted on the surface. And to the extent that, you know, they might invited them both as a partner to go to many of the family events or anything like that, as in most of the cases that I interviewed. And some of them even, you know, went on holidays together for years that, you know, they thought they were really a family. And some of the kids even stay at their places. And then once when that partner passed away, suddenly that acceptance is stripped away overnight. Very,
Mm,
very quickly, the relationship disintegrate. Because then the surviving partner realized that, oh my God, for all these years, I thought I was part of the family, but actually I was not. There was
right.
only one link in the middle. And if that link is taken away, I'm completely expelled from this family. So I think in a lot of the cases I interview, those women actually find out quite soon after their partners pass away and quite shocked at the changes.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. I know we only unfortunately have a few minutes left, but Ray, I was actually wondering if you could share a little bit more about your filmmaking process because you mentioned that you interviewed a couple folks for this story. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and then how did you shape the story?
Well, I think I basically at first I interview those cases that I talk about, and then
Okay.
I have like a loose idea what I wanted to write. But because I'm writing about two women, I was very worried that I was not able to give it a very truthful, authentic feel to it. So I approached a friend of mine, Denise Tan, who is actually doing the research on elderly women, lesbians in the society. She actually has a book now. So we together developed. She introduced me to a lot of the people she interviewed. Some are couples, some were you know singles and I interview a lot of those lesbians. And then afterwards, then I start reshaping the script. And then I invited them for table read.
Oh,
How they feel the main character should be like. So in that way, I was really hoping that Angie and Pat, the two characters, are very similar to how they see the lesbian world in Hong Kong. Because for me, that was very, very important to make sure that the representation is authentic. Because as a gay man, I didn't really want to make it like, oh my God, it's my view of them. I really wanted it to come from their point of view that represent them truthfully. So we
yeah.
did those table reads and rewriting.
That's incredible. And I thought you did a really fantastic job. There was just so much sensitivity shown throughout this film and so much compassion too shown to Angie and just nuance shown to the other characters and their motives. But Ray, I'm so sorry we're out of time, but thank you so much. I felt like we were able to pack a lot in, and thank you so much for your thoughtfulness and for your time. And I know you said this was your first virtual Q&A, but hopefully the first of many for you. And I'm so excited for this film to be out and about in the world. So thank you for being with us at CAAMFest.
All right. I see you guys hopefully soon.